Good morning, and what a special morning it is, joined by not just one incredible friend, incredible person, but a collection of human beings who are among the greatest. Proud to call them mentors and friends, and to come together and talk about something that's so important to all of us. So my name is Uri Schneider. I lead at SchneiderSpeech and this Transcending Stuttering Project. And today we're combining and bringing together the coalescence of the stuttering community and what we know is important in the journey of transcending stuttering. And I think if you wanted a textbook on transcending stuttering, you can just look at the people here. And I think one more person is joining us, but they embody everything that we need to learn and see, which is that it's a dynamic, personal journey. It has its ups, it has its challenges. It's not linear, and there's no one formula for everybody, but it's a living and breathing thing. And sometimes as you go through that, you have less stuttering on the surface. That can happen. And sometimes you go through that and you actually start talking. So people see you stutter more. That could happen, and you could be happier and freer. And then you can also dance between those things, and no two people are the same. But what is important and what's exciting is that when we bring people together, and my father in 2004 with the film Transcending Stuttering, which is available for free, check it out, SchneiderSpeech.com/movies. There are a handful of people featured in that film, men, women, people of all color, creed, and culture. And the universality of their experiences is what comes through the film. And there are hundreds more people whose stories are captured but didn't make it into the final cut. But here's what's profound. My father has worked with thousands of people, Dr. Phil Schneider. I have had the privilege to work with probably a few thousand myself. These podcasts are close to 60 conversations, many of them with researchers, people who stutter, and loved ones. And what shines through consistently is when you look at people who get to the other side, when you look and talk to people and you listen to people, what was most helpful? It's not to the exclusion of all else, but nobody starts off saying, this mechanical tool, this speech technique changed my life. That's what I attribute my entire transformation. The majority of people had some sort of experience, some sort of breakthrough that had to do with inner space, that had to do with the way they think and the way they feel, not to the exclusion of all else, but as an opener to all else. And so it's super exciting today to be with these friends and mentors and to have with us Michael Sugarman. Michael Sugarman is someone who is nearly impossible to introduce. He's a legend. He is someone who really was at the forefront of so many things that we see today. And in many ways, we owe him a huge debt of gratitude for which he's not asking for anything, but he deserves our thanks because it's on the shoulders of his work and others that we stand on their shoulders for so much of the good that we have. So just to tell you a little bit about Michael and what we're going to do today. Today, we're going to get to hear from people from around the world of what mindfulness and this whole mental health, mental wellness, what it means to them, how it's been relevant, personal, meaningful, significant for them, and also considering perhaps culture. We have different people from different parts of the world. And then we'll hear from Michael, who's going to bring a tremendous amount of wisdom and perspective and talk to us about a term, transformation. He's also going to introduce us to some apps, and he's also going to take us through the main course for today. The main course is going to be a mindful meditation led by a master guide. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Michael, just so those of you that don't know him know you're in the presence of someone extraordinary. And then we'll go pass the mic around to do some checking in with our friends. And then we'll circle back to Michael. So just so you know, Michael Sugarman has been in, well, you know what? I'll save your intro. How about that? We'll start with Anita, and then we'll circle around. For those of you that are watching, please drop your comments, your likes, your shares, help more people get this because it's worth getting. And for those of you that are listening, I hope that my descriptions can offer you some visualization, and Michael will help me with that later. But we'll start with Anita and hear from her, but just as an intro, Anita Blom was born and raised in the Netherlands. She lives in Sweden. She's worked as a teacher and operation manager for the Workers' Education Association. She's been active as a chairperson, board member, and advisory board member of local, national, European, and international stuttering organizations. She's a stuttering activist, has worked for decades to break down barriers and improve the lives of people who stutter around the world. She was a national and international keynote speaker on stuttering. She had her own consulting firm on stuttering and motivation, and has been a project leader of several stuttering projects. She was also a leader of national and international children and youth camps for over 20 years. Anita, AKA Qaissieh, has stuttered since she was 9 and had troublesome youth because of her stuttering. She went from being silent to giving stuttering a voice. From preschool children to the European Parliament, now inspiring people who stutter of all ages that they can make a difference. Due to her personal health issues, she's now taking it a bit slower, but is still an inspiration to so many people, including myself. She's acknowledged by the Voice Unearthed on the Wall of Inspiration and many others, and her device that, or phrase that's been used around the world is, "Sure, I stutter. What are you good at?" And I'll just add one sentence, which is, everything that is transcending stuttering owes a debt of gratitude to both Michael and Anita. They're both on the advisory team, and Anita's tooth and comb review of many of the things that I wrote up wouldn't look the same, and I wouldn't be as informed if not for her dedication and input and the back and forth that we shared with some of the sweetest and most thoughtful and thought-provoking that I had in the process of developing this. So without further ado, pass the mic to Anita. The question is, why or how is mindfulness or mental health meaningful to you in your personal journey or in the context of, you know, your country community, your stuttering community in your country?
Wow, Uri, that's a lot of wonderful words. I have to refine my voice. To give a short answer, if it weren't for the help that I got, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be alive, because my stuttering and everything that went. That was going on around me nearly killed me, because my mental health was down because of my stuttering, and because all these people telling me I was not good enough, I shouldn't be there. So if I would have had mental help there, I would have had so much more courage to stutter. And later on, I also had frustrations about work, about people in my life. I got an illness, and suddenly I found mindfulness, and mindfulness helped me to give it all space and to put everything in perspective. It's not just like the calming down part, you know, the meditation part, but the part of being here in the moment. Let go of the past and don't predict in the future. And what you cannot change, let it go. And what you can change, go for it. And that has changed my whole being. Because of that, I can now accept my stutter. I can do something about it. I can choose not to do anything about it and still feel good about me. And thanks to that, I had learned lots of speech techniques, but I couldn't use them because I didn't feel good within me. And as soon as I learned to accept me first and to be in the moment, from that moment on, I could talk, and I could be me, and I could choose to use therapy. I could choose to use the techniques and to be the full me. So that's thanks to mindfulness. So I'm really looking forward to hear Michael talk more about mindfulness.
Well, if I had any doubts of the order of what I lined up for today, we had a discussion a few moments ago. Should we start with jumping into the information and wisdom and experience that Michael can share, or should we kind of line it up with a leadoff batter and three of them, and then have Michael bat cleanup for those Americans that understand baseball? Anita, what a wonderful leadoff. And it really sets the stage of, I think the biggest question we all should be asking ourselves in anything in life is why? What's our why? Why are we doing this? And therapists and teachers and parents, stop and ask why. And then everything becomes much more meaningful, much more relevant. And we also can remove and eliminate a lot of the stuff that we just do just because. So I think I wanted everyone to really hear the personal experiences and reflections to show the why mental health matters and why meditation and mindfulness can be such powerful tools. So Anita, I think that was extremely powerful, and I want to thank you for sharing that. I'll pass over to, from Sweden, we go to Ireland. My good friend Stephen Green. Stay tuned, he's coming up on an episode shortly as well. Stephen's a person who stutters from Dublin, Ireland. How was that? Former chair of the Irish Stammering Association, current support group leader, a social care worker working with people with disabilities for over 20 years, a proud husband and father who loves travel and exploring different cultures. And he also is a person who stutters. So thanks for coming and join us, Stephen. So what will you reflect on this?
Thank you very much, Uri, for the introduction. When I was thinking about mindfulness and mental health, as a person, it just helps to navigate me through the day-to-day lives, because then, like, what happens is there's sometimes when things go really crazy, and as a person, you just really have to just take yourself down and just focus on yourself, and to just get to that kind of calming moment, and to ask yourself the questions. Okay, like, what's really happening here, you know? So, and I think it also really helps me to be present for the important people in my life. So, like my wife and my family, people that I work with, and just like my circle of friends. As a person who stutters, I think mindfulness and mental health, I think it's very important to me, because I have such a passion for this support nature of stuttering, and reaching out, and being able to facilitate people to talk about their own stuttering journey. And I think the mindfulness aspects kind of helps me to stay grounded, because there's sometimes when the passion just, like, it is hard to tame it. So it is hard to just to kind of keep it under control. So to stop me from getting disappointed, maybe if something isn't being achieved, or it isn't being achieved quickly, like, what can I do as a person to internalize that, and to walk through it? So I think that's how mindfulness and mental health has been very important to myself and my family as well. So
Stephen, thank you so much. How was my Irish accent?
I'll give you maybe a 5 out of 10.
The name. All right. I'm
Halfway,
trying.
halfway.
I'm working with Daniel Day-Lewis to see what I
Okay,
can
cool,
do. I
cool,
promise. I promise that when I work with young people who stutter, one of the things we like to do is switch seats, like physically and in position, and have them teach us how to stutter. And in doing so, they get a chance to explore it from the inside, from the outside, however you want to call it. But I promise you, my stuttering that I can embody to the best of my ability, which is not, I don't stutter. I'm not wired to stutter, but I can step into that accent with the help of some friends better than I do my Irish accent. I just want to assure you of that. So with that, we are very fortunate to have a very special guest, a new friend, Farah Al-Qaissieh from Dubai. And so glad that she could join us as well, bringing another perspective and voice to the crowd. She had to take care of some other responsibilities, which is the first thing she put in her intro. Above all else, she's a mother to 3 boys. So we're so glad that you could carve the time to be with us. And certainly you came right on time, right on cue. She's also, in addition to being a proud mom of 3 boys, she's an award-winning social entrepreneur and a clinical hypnotherapist. Farah is passionate advocate for the inclusion of people who stutter and the mental health and well-being of parents. And the fact that she comes from Dubai, she brings another cultural perspective, as every individual person does in the context of the culture of their family and of their community, but also different parts of the world. And one of the things I wanted to highlight here is the universality. It can look different, but the universality of the experience of stuttering, and also the universality, where you are in the globe, the importance of looking at mental health and the role of talking about things and engaging tools, no matter where you're from and no matter what you look like, the importance of that. So Farah, the question is, why or how is mindfulness or mental health meaningful to you in your own personal journey or in the context of your community where you come from? Thanks for joining us.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for having me. It's truly an honor, and I'm glad I caught it when I did. I hope my the voice is clear. All right. So for me, mindfulness was something that I've always been passionate about. It was something that that guided me in everything that I do, and I think it originated with the fact that I stutter, and having been able to go through that journey of hating myself, hating my stutter, hating speaking, to being a representative of the people who stutter here in the UAE, has been a very interesting journey. And if it wasn't for mindfulness, if it wasn't for the community that supported me, I don't think I would have been able to be here, be where I am. For me, mindfulness has a lot to do with understanding myself, understanding that there will be days where I stutter. There will be days where, despite being so comfortable with the fact that I stutter, I need to be mindful that there will be days where it might win the battle and put me back to when I was a kid, when I was very ashamed of my stutter. And being able to step out of the moment and observe the situation in a more objective way. That's how I view mindfulness, and that's how it really helped me throughout my journey, and especially as a mother. Mainly because as a primary caregiver, I'd want to be able to teach my kids, guide them, and mind you, there's all 3 of my kids are under 3, but with the moments where I catch myself stuttering while I'm trying to teach them something or explain something, And they kind of give me that look and go like, you're not speaking like the rest of the house. There's something different. And even though they don't say it, it's something that I sense. And that's where I need to be mindful of myself. Is it something that I am, that's within me, that's being projected and it's reflecting back on me? Children don't know, especially at that age, fluency. They don't know how one should speak. But because I know how it is, I'm aware of how it feels. It's starting to play a lot in my head. So going into hypnotherapy truly helped me in understanding and embracing those uncertain or weird or unfamiliar emotions.
Wow. I don't want to take a second away from Michael, but I also can't resist. Just to say, like, if not for stuttering, I wouldn't have a chance to be connected to these incredible individuals. And as much as we come from different parts of the world and have so much different between us, I find it awesome that we come together here. So without further ado, I think you could all hear the words between the tears there. So now to introduce, as I said, I would hold off introducing Michael till now. Now I just got to find where I stuck it. Because, okay, here we go. Because his bio, yeah, I'm not going to let you push me off here. Hold on, here we go. Michael, here we go.
Okay.
So as I said, we all really stand on the shoulders of others, whether it's our parents, whether it's other people who tread a path before us or open doors for us. But Michael Sugarman is someone that we all have gratitude for and stand on his shoulders. And it's such a treat to have him and be so generous and share ongoing with us. Michael's been an activist in the stuttering and disability communities since the 1970s. Can you believe that? He was co-founder, former executive director of the National Stuttering Project in the US, and former chair of the International Stuttering Association. Michael wrote for academic journals, promoted people first language and stuttering awareness, and that it's okay to stutter, which was an epic, groundbreaking piece in the Journal of Fluency Disorders, and the Perniciousness of Labels and Transactional Analysis Journal. As a medical social worker, so a professional medical social worker, so not only coming at this from a person who stutters, but from the professional side, he's recently updated his children's book, The Adventures of Phil and Dotty, and he just doesn't stop, and he continues to evolve, and he continues to give back, and he continues to be engaged, and it's an honor and a privilege to have him on the advisory team of the Transcending Stuttering community platform. And without further ado, Michael, we're all listening.
Okay, thank you to everybody. And I'm humbled and honored to be with you to join and we could share this journey. The other thing is, thank you, Uri. Today is Mental Health Action Day. We have 1,000 corporations that are taking part of it, and as well as that we have 30 countries around the world. So I'm going to begin with a couple of quotes that I would like you to think about. From Martin Luther King: "You don't have to see the whole staircase, just the first step." From Maya Angelou: "There's no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you." So mental health and disabilities, stuttering go hand in hand. And mindfulness is this, what we're doing now. And in the therapeutic world, it's called mindfulness-based interventions. But I'll tell you a little bit about my journey first, and then we'll get into this transformation idea concept. So in 1976, that I was a student, a bachelor's degree student in sociology at UC Santa Barbara. And it took me 3 sessions with the school psychologist to finally say that I stuttered. Took me 3 times. I knew what was going on, but to get it out, like what Maya Angelou said. So, so fortunately, like I went to the speech clinic there, and I walked in, and you know, I'm ready now. I'm ready. I have the feelings. I'm going to work on my stutter. They told me you have to come back in a week to do my first assessment. So now I have to wait the entire week to get that appointment to begin this process. So I came back, and for 6 months, I dwelled onto my own mental health as well as speech therapy. So I had the opportunity to evolve what was going on with me at that moment in time. So then I left this, or I was clinically fluent from the clinic. And then that famous conversation I have to have with the clinicians. Oh, you know, that you could have a relapse in a year. A relapse? Wait, I just spent 2 days a week clinic time. I said, so at UC Santa Barbara, there was a sign that said, to become a University of California student lobbyist at our state capitol in Sacramento, or a University of California student lobbyist in Washington. Well, I'm a California boy, and being from California, thinking going to the East Coast during the winter did not sit too well to me. So I chose Sacramento, our state capital. And lo and behold, that's where my journey really took off, and I was really fortunate. So I met Bob and other people who stuttered, and that's where, you know, the Stuttering Project, Rich Wells, John Harrison, John Allback. But as well as what was going on in Sacramento was people with psychiatric disabilities took over the governor's mansion and wanted services. That was the beginning of what was commonly known as Mad Pride. So the mental health community was saying, like, whoa, wait a second, we want to start, you know, to get our services. And right, within 1 month, I was fortunate because I was up in Northern California, was the famous Crip Camp, which you may have seen on films or anything like that. And that is the takeover of the federal building. Well, that was a natural thing for me to do, was to go to the demonstration, and for disability rights, mental health rights, and for people with stutter. So I went back to Santa Barbara, I graduated, and I came back up to Oakland. And so the famous thing is Center for Independent Living. That was a mecca center that people know about for the disability rights movement. But there's also the other movement was self-care and peer support. And at that time, you have to remember that I'm in Berkeley, California. So we had people from Cal, graduate students in social work and psychology coming in. We had people from Stanford coming in, and we had people from UC Med. And it was just like what Uri is doing with his cohorts, is sitting down and around, and we were talking about how to develop peer support and peer counseling for the community. So there's mental health, disability, and stuttering. The group that I was in for the NSP was the Oakland-based one. And fortunately for me, you know, we were around the same age group, and, you know, graduate school and going to social work school or psychology or social psych. Now, I was a graduate student in trying to get my PhD in sociology. So now you have to mind frame here and mindset. This is the late 70s. So my advisor said, Mike, it sounds like you really want to become a social worker, not a disability studies. I mean, what is that? And I said, well, it seems like a new movement that's happening. There's a mental health movement and a disability rights movement that we're trying to combine. So lo and behold, I was advised to become a social worker. Now, remember, this is late 70s. So like what Uri said was all these things that came out of that was that whole concept of this cohort that Uri is doing is basically all these people were getting together from all kinds of disabilities and mental health, and we're all talking. And that's where this all things, the person first language came up, and it's okay. So then, fortunately for me, that I got my degree, and it became a master's degree in social work. And my first job was at Stanford Med. Now at Stanford Med, there was a lot of things that were going on. And I'll move this really quick now, because that's going to be the key. So at Stanford Med, there was another thing, like Uri was saying, was a cohort. So in medical, it was a medical social work. So a lot of us saw the motto of that, you've all heard the social and medical disability model. For us, we looked at it as a psychosocial disability model and a psychiatric disability model. Very similar social model. And so some of us, thought this concept. So if we bring the transformation, and I'll circle that right now.
Would you like me to share the screen on that?
Yeah.
Sure, let me pull that up.
Okay, so so this particular month and talking to people,
just for people that may be listening that can't see it, I'm going to post this image into the Facebook feed, and I will also share it on the blog post on SchneiderSpeech.com/our blog. So anyone that wants to see it, it's something Michael put together, but he's going to talk us through it.
Okay, to talk us through this. Okay, so during the time of when I worked in as a clinical social worker with AIDS folks, there was this dichotomy, this dialectic of looking at shame, which was what came, and to looking at pride, and there's a dialectic there that's going on. The personal experience and the transformation to become prideful. So how do you get to there? So being a therapist, or I'm interested in that process, like what Anita was saying, what Stephen was saying, what we were all saying with this whole group was, what's that process of feeling better about ourselves? Now, today, it's interesting to talk about mindfulness, because the big push is towards yoga and mindfulness and safe spaces. So in a psychosocial model, this is what I came up with. So the individual experience is a stutter shame and stutter and anxiety. Now here comes where it comes a disability model, and that is stutter, ableism, fluency, because those are the expectations that society has on us. And so we go through this process of looking at shame, pride, and how do you get there. So the middle path is these paths of transformation. And stutter acceptance, the radical acceptance. Today is Mental Health Day. So we have found that acceptance has shown to reduce the feelings of shame and anxiety. The acceptance of talking about what's going on for you is linked to lower rates of suicide and dealing with negative thoughts. Just a thing that we use in the mental health community. So as you could see through this, like, it's interesting because I went to a webinar that I know some of the folks from. It was the peer ERG movement in mental health. Now, when I say ERG, do folks know what that means? Okay, so today is really going to be a really, so I said there's 1,000 corporations. They're called employment resource groups. And so I listed those under stutter support. And what Uri was talking about, safe spaces, that's the key word now. So we're trying to create, and corporations now are trying to create this safe space. So because I'm here in the Bay Area, I've been talking to folks, in our groups. I've been asking that because everybody's on Zoom. And so what's been the dynamic with your supervisor? So it's okay. So one person said the supervisor introduced the person with a stutter to the Zoom group. Another person said the supervisor introduced the person who stuttered to the Zoom group. One person was totally mad about it, and the other person saying that was fine about it. So now we're going into this employment resource groups that are going to be available not only in mental health, but in disability groups. So those are going to be, you're starting to read about them now, but Microsoft, just Google, everybody is jumping in on these, of creating kind of like a peer safe space for people to talk about these things. And shall I say, and add to the group, mindfulness is the first thing, is like talking about being okay and talking about your issues. Does that all make sense? So this brings up really, Uri, because I attended a peer group.
Not only does it make sense, but there are people from around the world drop in their comments how much they are grateful, Michael, for what you're sharing.
Okay.
And really eating it up. So
thank you.
Thank you. And everybody here I know as well.
So naturally, like there's a peer movement in the mental health community. So they just gave a talk, and they're the ones who are pushing this employment, resource groups throughout the country and probably throughout the world that we'll start to see. So I decided to ask. Now you have to remember, they're not therapists; they're peers. So I asked that question to the group. So how do you want to deal with this? You have mental health issue, you have and the three people said, well, they better get out there and tell their story. So out of that came, after conversations with the cohort, talking to like Vivian Sheehan about change, the word change versus transformation. So naturally, I've been going to a couple of the webinars during this month and reconnecting with some friends. And so in the psychosocial disability model in the field, we don't really have a model of this going from a shame to a pride. So if you want to show that again, that would be fine. Uri.
Sure, let me pull that back up.
So does this all make sense to everybody? Okay, that's the important thing. So okay, so not only when you go to a therapist, you're taught these clinical skills, but also what we're doing is that we're combining the whole self and saying like, well, then maybe you should consider taking a yoga class and taking a mindful class and integrating the whole society. So if you notice, so what I try to do here is in a model for us people that stutter, because I'm basically coming back home and it feels really safe to try this out, because that's, you know, I did this, well, it's safe, so thank you. So if you look at it, self-care is a really big action amongst today, because you're taking action to support the physical and emotional well-being. So not only are we moving ourselves from the individual, but we're trying to transform society. And as you can see, the dialectic is feeling shame and feeling not shame. Also, the dialectic to that is this ableism and making us feel bad, because that's the ableist view, is a societal view, is stutter inclusivity, of creating a just and accessible communities, environments for us. And that's what's occurring now. And that's where all this stuff that's going on today is what we're trying to move people towards.
Michael, can I just ask you to spotlight two things that are itching in me? One is clarification, because I know the meaning of the word transformation is meaningful to you and deliberate to you. So I'd love if you could just spotlight on that for a moment. And when you're ready, I got my chimes and all my apps lined up for my mindful meditation.
Okay, really quickly. When I say change, what comes to mind? Just think about that.
Anita, Stephen, Farah, what do you think?
Just think about, you know, the word change.
Well, my husband said, you are not the woman that I married. So that's been my change. I went through every single step that you had on that chart, and I went from shame to pride. So this has been my journey, and I'm happy that I'm still married, that he accepted my change.
So when I use the term transform, what comes to mind?
What comes to mind to me is a different stage. It's a different stage of the development. That's what comes to my mind.
Yeah, I'd agree with Stephen as well on this. Like it's like you're no longer the same, and yet there is some learnings from it.
So
I'll just add, I also was inspired by Stephen and Farah. I have a different kind of mind. So the first time I thought of change, I think you pay with a bill and they give you back change. But I think that also captures what Stephen and Farah were alluding to. Not to exclude Anita, but she took it another place. Change suggests like this was here before and now it's gone and now there's a change. It suggests like out with the old, in with the new, more than transformation. I think of as a kid and the recent movie series Transformers. You know, it's an evolution. It's a change, but not one that's out with the old. It's evolving with the same pieces into something with more power.
So, I mean, we should maybe have another hour with this, Uri, because I mean, that's what we're doing in the mental health community.
I think some of our kids and spouses won't go for that right now, unplanned.
No, not right now. No, we're all, Okay, so let's move on to a mindful meditation and app. So what's happening like tomorrow? It's called World Meditation Day. So it's within the mental health month, as what we've all been saying, how mindfulness works. Well, the meditation, you know.
So we talked
there in person
at the beginning about Anita lead off, and Stephen was the second batter, and then Farah the third, if you know baseball. So Michael's in the cleanup spot, very important home run hitter. So if we follow that analogy, today is spring training for mindfulness, because tomorrow is opening day. But so today we're focusing on really mental health and why it's relevant far beyond the confines of what you might have thought before. And I think I've included the website of Mental Health Action Day, and they have a whole collection of things that you can look at in terms of different actions you can take and just reframing how we think about it. But I think what's beautiful today is looking at this intersection for people who stutter and people who, again, I think of embody transcending stuttering, not in anything related to the name of a podcast, but just that's what I think of. And I think of it as a word that is respectful and borrows from what I think of transformation. It's not a fixed version. It's an evolved version. It's like a fine wine, and it's maybe even taken something was a challenge, and now it's become actually a catapult or a springboard or something that rises up. Doesn't mean it's always easy, and it doesn't mean it's linear, and it looks different for everybody. But looking at how that journey borrows, leans on, necessitates, and Michael's image before talking about mindfulness and just mental wellness. So I think it's wonderful. So today we're going to get a walk through this mindful meditation, and then tomorrow you can use all these apps to give it a go for World Meditation Day. So this is awesome, Michael. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, one of the apps that I want to talk to people about is Shine. Shine is designed and owned by people of color. So don't think of, the thinking of meditation is just for white people, or just for, or just going to the spa, or, it's like we had just experienced here in the States and around the world, George Floyd, and which everybody knows about. Well, during that time, because there was so much trauma, the Black community did a lot of meditation, and we did a lot of trauma around that, and just sitting with that feeling. The other thing,
out, Michael, we're always connected. Just yesterday, where was it? Someone has to remind me, but I was just talking about a podcast that I listened to on a run. Tim Ferriss interviewing George Mumford.
Oh, okay.
Who is African American and a mindfulness guru of a different sort. As Michael said, it's not what you might think of when you picture somebody in yoga pants doing mindfulness, but he was considered one of the greatest coaches and trainers of the likes of Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, and was brought into the Chicago Bulls. So as Michael's saying, I think open up your mind to mindfulness, looking different colors, different shapes, different sizes, but also bringing it into places in life that you didn't think about. Corporate, what does corporate want with mindfulness? Well, it does, because they see it has an impact. Speech therapists, teachers in the classroom, parents at home. You think the kid's too young? There are ways to adapt and bring these principles to life, but the impact and the doors that can open when you explore inner space, unreal.
Thank you. The other thing is the website that that Uri has posted is not just in English, it's in every language. Because here in the States, we're I'm from California, so we're 38% Latinx. So we're trying to reach out to the community, like what Uri was talking about. So let's get started. I just want to do a really
Tu hablas mi lingua.
Oh, God. And in Hebrew, Uri.
Toda rabah.
Yeah. So to begin with this, I'm going to share with you what we do in laughing yoga. Okay. So what I would like you to do is sit there, put your arms around yourself, and go 3 times. Hug, 1, 2, 3. Clap your hands. Very good. Very good. Yay! Make sure you know that yoga and meditation, it's hard, because most people think, oh my God, how can I do a 5-minute sit? How could I spend so much time? The monks say, who doesn't have that problem? And letting your mind wander. So just remember, like what we try to do is just a short, getting people to do mindfulness. Now, because it's Mental Health Day, I just want to ask one question to you. Here in the States, including brushing your teeth and taking a shower, how much time do you think Americans spend on the average on on self-care, on health self-care. 15 minutes, and that includes brushing teeth. So think about yourself of taking that time, and that's the reason why this employment research group, Uri, is trying to do all these taking time, because they do meditation and mindfulness traveling. So what I want to do is sit back in your chair, do this, and just breathe in through your nose and through your mouth. Breathe in and out. Breathe in, hold the breath, and out. I'm going to ring my chime, and I'm going to hold that, and then we'll begin our journey. Continue to breathe in and out. Imagine yourself at the beach. I want you to squeeze the sand between your toes. Just squeeze, 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 and let go. Do that exercise again. Squeeze, 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 and let go. I want you to have your hands, to put your hands in the sand and squeeze the sand. Squeeze, squeeze, and let go. And do that again. I want you to think about an emotion that you're dealing with right now. It could be shame, anxiety, frustration. It could be what's your mind thinking about of getting to work or getting not to work. Taking care of your kids. Think about the process that you're having right now. How big is that in your life? Take a ball and look at that ball. Feel that ball, and how's that ball making you feel? Breathe in and breathe out. Now I want you to imagine someone has now joined you on the beach. It could be somebody like a teacher, it could be somebody from your past, somebody in your life, or somebody that you feel loved and support. What would you be telling that person about that emotion? I'm going to ring the bell, and at the end of the bell, I want us to come back. So that is called loving kindness emotion. So it's another way of getting people, of learning that process of looking at what's going on in their life. And like what Anita said, like if you draw a line, you put one side of the thing is future, the other side past, and you make a stick figure. Present is where you are. So in our world now is that we want people to start to, have that present oriented thing, because you're realizing that you're struggling with all this stuff, how much time you're taking. And so we want to have you to spend some time for yourself.
The first time that I spoke with you, Michael, on the podcast back in November, you did this with me, and it was a surprise because I thought you were going to come on and talk about it. And before I knew it, you had me doing this laughing yoga thing, which was totally out of my comfort zone, but I totally went with you. If y'all want to see me totally out of my comfort zone, check it out. But I'd love if everyone here is comfortable, Michael, maybe you could walk us through, because there's nothing like doing it, right? So like we have the benefit of you just walked us through that. Anybody that's listening that just went through that, you're present, you're more grounded, you're more focused. I would imagine having done that than before. So I don't know, Michael, how you would facilitate this little group we have here, just to kind of reflect on that. Obviously, no one should share if they don't want to, or share anything that's uncomfortable. But Michael, I'd love for you to lead that. You know, what it could look like to kind of like pull the group and see what wisdom we can bring.
Well, what person did you talk to? And what was your emotion? Now,
if someone wants, someone wants to unmute. No, Michael, I just wanted to give permission. If anyone wants to respond, they can, and if they don't, that's cool too.
Well,
Michael,
I was just going to give the group some idea. Like some people have talked about how they talk to their 6-year-old about their stuttering, how they're in their 70s. They wish that someone would have talked to them. Some people talk like to a barber, and going like, why a barber? Because no judgment. Felt like going to, there's no family dynamic there. Someone said their mother, someone said, you know, their partner, you know, their wife, their boyfriend, you know, girlfriend, you know. So we just don't know about how comfortable people feel. So that's the reason why we try to, and then in this kind of a group, we want people to start to share about current feelings, you know. So we're trying to get focus. And like when Anita started us out, what we all were talking about, mental health, and that is, you can't, you know, take back the past. You can learn what's going to happen in the future, but you're very present right now talking about that emotion. So I would ask that for the group. And
would you like me to go first, Uri?
I don't. Yeah, Uri is handling it. Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, no, Mike, you're in charge. But I saw Stephen. I had that read that Stephen.
Yeah.
Something rich that he wanted to share.
Yeah. No. I just really went into a space there on the beach where I was talking to my father, and I was the emotion that I was stressing about was I was trying to see where am I going, like where is my future path like. And I was there, is it still doing the job that you're doing, or is it doing something else? And I could just hear my father's voice in my ear just saying, don't sweat it, like, you know, just don't sweat it, like, you know. So, you know, so yeah, that's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I share too?
Yeah.
When you were saying beach, then my mouth was like this big suddenly, because water is my space, and I've been to the California beach, and with a very, very special friend, and we were walking there. We were doing the thing with our toes in the sand and our hands in the sand, and we were eating a frozen banana, and that day we shared so much, and it was stuttering, it was family, it was life, and I cried a lot, but but from joy, because I could share this, and I was in this moment with my best friend on this wonderful place, and that was a moment where I let go a lot of my thoughts, emotions, fears, and I shared that. And through sharing, I felt so free that I cried with joy.
So so about, we're trying to go for positive, reframing from negative to positive, you know. And what Anita said was, well, last week we had a webinar called Nature and Mental Health, and there's close to 50K that came onto that webinar. And, you know, so it's usually maybe about 3 hours of a therapist going like, whoa, yeah, get outside, walk. So I'm going to ask, because it's mental health.
I can't resist. I'll just share one snippet anecdote to what Michael just said. It's not in the movie Transcending Stuttering, but my father's interview with David Shapiro, many of you know, who is another legend, and both in his contributions to the community, but also his textbooks and research as a person who stutters and as a professional. And he talks about his own therapy as a young person. And he talks about going to therapy, and he doesn't remember what they did, and he doesn't remember what they talked about. But he remembers that the therapist asked him, well, where do you like to be? And he said, I like to hike. I like to walk in the woods. And that's what they did. They took walks. And in the silence, he says this beautiful line. I always remember it. It's like imprinted on my forehead. In the silence, more was said than any words could. And just being in the place that I wanted to be, in a place that was my happy place, like Anita was describing. And yeah, if we could meet each other and create that space for each other, I think of that all the time. And I think it's counterintuitive to a lot of parents, educators, therapists, but if one can do it professionally and with ethical responsibility and all the things that ensure the safety of everybody involved, it can be an incredibly different experience than being in the four walls with no windows, put aside the whole COVID situation. But being outdoors can be very, very opening and freeing, and being in that place where a person feels most comfortable, open.
And that connection, it's not only to the other person that you're talking with and sharing, but you're also connecting with nature or what you're doing, the yoga, and you know, you're this connectedness. So because it's Mental Health Day, so I want to address
Michael, just one. Did anyone else want to add something before Michael goes to the next point?
I'm sorry, I was just seeing the time.
That's fine.
No, it's fine. It's I just love that it was the beach. It's truly my happy place. Happy place. But it was very. It was like a mini vacation that my body needed, and it was possible within those few minutes. So thank you so very much.
Well, thank you.
I'll just riff on that.
Yeah.
Back on Farah, and I'm picturing the beach in Dubai. Hopefully we'll be there soon. But the idea of micro dosing this, I think what Farah just said, like for Farah, it's the end of the day. For others, it's the middle of the day. For others, it's early morning. For Michael in LA, you know, in California and Oakland. But the ability to do a small dose of this and the benefit is remarkable. So I think the other thing that people have, which is a misconception, is that, oh, this requires, you know, a 3-day retreat of silence. And that's certainly a powerful dosing and can be an incredible experience for people who've done it. But it can also be done in, as Farah said, just 3 minutes. And what a profound vacation feeling it delivered. And then even coming out of it, this feeling of like, wow, my inbox isn't as bad as it would have been if I went on a 3-day retreat and I still got a vacation. Look at that. So it's more doable.
Absolutely, it's doable and it's accessible. So I want to end with what is going on in our field, and that is this mind and body process. And so we should I say, street language, we call it to getting out of thinking traps. In therapeutic, we go cognitive behavior therapy, or what we call in dialectical behavior therapy, opposite action. So you do your thinking, and basically you act opposite to what you're thinking. And you know, it's just, again, trying to bring it home to us, you know, the people that stutter. So let me throw this past you. So this is just a comment. The human brain reacts more intensely to negative events than to positive ones. We intensify the negative when we hold on to the positive rather than the praise, than the positive. Just how our brain is often wired. So we're trying to move away from that. So let me give you what we're doing here through the mental health community. Okay. So what percentage of people here in the States do you think worry about things that never happens at all? Never happens, but they worry about it. It's going to happen to me. It's catastrophizing. It's overgeneralization. How many people?
Oh.
90%. So now, out of that 10% of times where the worries in their life come true, what percentage of people do you think handled the difficulty better than expected or learned a valuable lesson? %90. So what we're trying to teach is these mindful skills. Say, if you're going to worry, what are you going to learn from that rather than holding on to the negative? So it's this, well, what we use as that term is cognitive distortions. And it's just our brain is wired that way. Oh, I mean, you could think in our own lives. I mean, what do we hold on to more? Is the negative than a praise? I mean, it's just how we're wired. And so what we're trying to do is to move away from that. So the integration of this whole reframing, journal writing, gratitude journal writing is about that, of getting it down on paper. Now, when we say journal writing, we're not saying for you to write, you know, the whole, you know, page. It could be just 2 words. I'm upset. The other thing is because some of us have worked in, you know, with severely depressed folks and suicidal folks. We ask them to make their beds every morning. You know, that sounds like make their beds, or to water their plants, or, you know, to breathe outside for a minute. And what that gives them is a positivity. They come back home, the bed's made. Oh, that feels good. I mean, it's just you know, these simple things that we're trying to do in people's lives to try to make that negativity to positive, going to the beach for 5 minutes or in processing that. So
being mindful of how much I'm sparking and also grounding, and how much listeners and people watching are processing. So there's dosing. There's also time that people allotted. And I'm just sensitive and mindful of that. So this shouldn't become stressful.
yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
But certainly, Michael, the resounding feeling in this little room here with the 5 of us, and coming in with comments from many of our good friends. I don't want to miss anybody, but a lot of great comments and reflections on what you asked about change versus transformation. I love seeing all these comments. We'll come back and review them. Is like, we got to come back for more. We could listen to you and sit with you for so long. So, but I just want to bring us home. Do you, Michael, and anyone else want to just offer any closing words or thoughts of reflection on the theme of mindfulness, of mental wellness, of how it relates to stuttering journeys, and also hopes for the future, or just any thought. And just if anyone wants to raise a hand and give a thought, Anita can give a go, and everybody can have a chance, and then we'll bring it home.
The biggest help that I got from mindfulness is those four letters, SOAL, and it says stop, observe what is going on, what's the problem or the issue, and then the A is for you either act or you accept, and then the L is let go, and especially the L that was major. And I use it with my stutter. I use it when I'm in a queue in the shop, and there's a problem in my queue, of course, as always. Or when I have to clean the toilet. I mean, in every single moment, I use these four letters, and they have changed so much for me now, especially when I got ill. That was my second journey, and I used these four letters again, and I used these exercises, and it I can cope today with the single nuisances like cleaning the toilet, but also the big issues thanks to mindfulness.
Well, the S can be the hardest one, just to get started with stopping. And then having the next ones to follow up and observe and choose to accept or to take an action, and then to let it go. And maybe another L would be to give a little self-love. But that was beautiful, Anita. Thank you so much for that. Would anyone else like to share a parting thought? Farah?
Anita, thank you so much. I think this is one of the many takeaways I'm going to take with me from today's session, because it's very simple yet so powerful. So thank you. Mindfulness is something that once we've gotten into the habit of practicing it in our own terms, in our own definition, it's not as we've been saying, it's not you need to do 1, 2, or 3, but whatever works for me to kind of release that stress, release that worry, release that anger, is very important for anyone's well-being, but I think also for people who stutter, because what is on the outside is just a fraction of what's happening within us. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Farah. Anyone else want to share a word? Stephen?
Yeah, just to finish, for myself would be even just the ability to unclutter the mind for a short period of time, even like when I was on the beach there, my mind was just uncluttered, and it was a lovely feeling. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
Stephen. Michael?
Thank you for letting me into this great community, and really a loving community. And it's in this transformation of that we could see it, that people are opening up and talking about it, and talking about their stutter, and making that a world a better place for everybody. And this concept of going from shame to pride is accepting not only the stuttering, but your whole self, and the love, and not being ashamed. And thank you about you're creating this transformation. Thank you.
Just guiding and bringing people together. I had a thought while I was running earlier. I'll just share it as a closing thought. As much as I don't believe in us and them, I think there are two kinds of people in the world, and everybody can decide of which group they subscribe. There are the people that everything's just fine. They got it all taken care of, and they're pretty self-sufficient and satisfied just as things are. And then there are people that feel like they're hungry for a little bit more. There's something they feel could be a bit better. They feel they could be a bit more themselves. They could feel a little bit more of something inside of them isn't yet getting to express itself. And I don't just mean words. I subscribe to the latter group. And what Michael said, you know, that's what this Transcending Stuttering community is about. That's what this whole series is. That's what this is all about for people who stutter and for professionals who care to come at it with fresh eyes, to really redefine what it means in a much broader context. But by bringing together people who are hungry and have that fire inside of them, bring everybody around the campfire and to sit together and share space in our own minds and our own hearts, and then share when and how we choose to. All of us are smarter than any of us, right? And that's a tribute to one of our mentors, Dr. Joel Stark. But that's what this whole Transcending Stuttering thing is about. So if you care about the podcast, it was funny, I reached out to one person, I won't embarrass them. They said, oh, your podcast? Oh, I listen to it all the time. And I'm like, oh, I had no idea because I never heard from you, or you never dropped a review. So if you like the podcast, or if you like anything, you can help us by sharing these messages. Share it, subscribe, like, not for some vanity metrics, but truly just to share it with people who are sitting in some basement by themselves. And this might be that opener that helps them realize they're not alone, and helps them realize they're not the only ones that are thinking and feeling those feelings that they don't have anywhere to air out. And if you're a professional hungry to learn about this, I'm putting together and inviting some of our greatest teachers. They're all right here, and others around the world. And we can all listen and grow and help one another. And so the goal is that no one should feel alone, and no one should feel stuck going to sleep at night with no idea where to go, with that feeling that they got something inside themselves. To know that there's where to go. And as Michael's model shows, there are different layers of that. There are different sequence of ways to do that. Self-help, working with an individual professional of different sorts, being part of a cohort community, having an ongoing support group that's asynchronous, so many avenues. So if you want to join us, SchneiderSpeech.com/TSA is one way, and we're bringing people together. And again, if you're all set, God bless. And I think radical acceptance also, I just want to leave with this thought that Michael talks about. Radical acceptance, we often think applies to ourselves. We have to learn to also give it to others who think differently, who speak differently. And I'm talking about those people who think someone has to change the way they talk or change the way they dress. We have to have more tolerance and acceptance of others in that sense. And those of us that are digging this mindfulness thing, and someone is kicking and screaming they don't want any piece of it, to have the ability to show also the tolerance and acceptance of their opposite experience in that moment, and to honor it, and to have radical acceptance for ourselves as much as we do for others, and for others as much as we do ourselves. And truly the people here are my great teachers. So I want to thank first and foremost Michael Sugarman, as well as, so Michael coming in from California, Anita from Sweden, beyond words, Stephen from Ireland, and Farah from Dubai, UAE. Thank you so much. It's been an honor to share the time. And I wish everyone a wonderful, wonderful day and a great weekend.